Hey, look, it's Fridays with Jarod. I'm bringing in little Zoom quarantine show. Oh my gosh. Okay, how's everybody doing? It's Friday.
It's Friday. No dinosaurs in the streets. Thank God.
Yeah, you caught us, Judy. The show began when we were talking for maybe the 70th time about life in Florida, where there was like a giant picture. It looked like a dinosaur. But Thorpe's like, no, it's just the angle of the camera. It's just a regular gator.
Pretty sure we don't have any real dinosaurs here. I'll let you know if we do. You'll see me just like that.
If any state has it, it's Florida.
Oh no, we got some.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it was a dinosaur or not. Jarod and I aren't moving there.
Like 100% not.
Too scary. Yeah,
I understand.
Okay, so it's 9 by 90 time. We've got a lot going on. We have a guest coming later.
We do.
Expecting to be drafted player. Kind of excited about that. So let's. I guess we got to be on schedule. We got to be professional about this. Let's do it. Go ahead, Jarod, whenever you're ready.
We do. So there's been a lot of talk about, since post-election, the division within the Democratic caucus. And it reminds me of a Lincoln quote, right? A house divided against itself cannot stand, right? And that's sort of where the Democrats are sitting right now. The progressive wing of the party and the moderate wing of the party are just having trouble coming to some kind of an agreement, right? When you think about progressives, that's AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and that crew, and the moderates and the establishment being Whip Clyburn, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and that crew. And something struck me as interesting from the piece in HuffPo that Rashida Tlaib said. Congressman Tlaib said, we are equally elected. People want government to really, truly care about them. This is how we come together. And that's how the Democratic Party needs to think about this. Look, the moderates aren't going to always get what they want, and the progressive side aren't going to always get what they want. That's what the nature of compromise and what politics is. But if we can all band together and say we want to do what is best for the people, the demos, they can figure out a way to make that happen, right? And it's going to have to be, like I talked about the other day with our guest, not firmly digging in your heels about, no, I'm right, my facts are more correct than yours. This is not whose facts are more correct. If your goal is to help the people, okay, how do we come together and help the people? So here's hoping that the Democratic Party can do that.
I'm with you. I like it. So in 1980, Ronald Reagan won 50.7% of the popular vote. It wasn't a great turnout. This is when Jimmy Carter was president. So he was able to defeat an incumbent. He won an enormous amount of electoral votes. But the reality is just over half the country, 15.7%, voted for him. And it began the Reagan Revolution. Well, as of now, Joe Biden's at 50.8%. And that we know down the ballot didn't all go blue. So this is literally just a Biden revolution. This is an absolute turning down of Trump and an embrace of Biden. And it comes at a time where all of us need, as just a quote, to follow up what Jarod said, we've got a major virus problem coming, way worse than before. We love basketball. We may not see basketball if things keep going the way they are. It's a fantasy to think that fans are coming back in arenas when we've got the kind of pandemic that we have right now. And talking to a doctor last night, it's really scary stuff. And so if we don't all recognize that most of us who voted for the same guy, and we've got to find common ground there, no matter what our party affiliation is, it's going to be the worst 3 months America's experienced since one of the Vietnam or World War II, or worse than that. It just won't be as bloody, but it might be as deadly. So we've got to come together on this. We'll talk more about it later, but we need to be on the same team on this. We should be.
Okay, I just published a story this morning, and anyway, sliced it's a doozy, and we don't need to rehash the whole thing now. But one component of the story is about how the way the media works now has the effect of devaluing human life, making it not as sad when someone dies or gets sick. And after writing this, I listened to New York Magazine's Olivia Nuzzi on the Long Form podcast, and she noted something fascinating. It's true even in the White House. She notes that the White House is a very toxic work environment. People literally get sick working there. She says, I thought this was an amazing point. She said, I would get fired from New York Magazine if she did what Mark Meadows did, which is she met with all kinds of people in person, often without a mask, endangering them and their families. Mark Meadows, of course, later tested positive. When Brad Parscale was hauled off, had his guns forcibly taken away from him after making threats to hurt himself, a source in the White House told Newsy, this place just destroys people. They just all destroy each other. we can talk more about how we get here. And actually, this is you noted it, Devin. Since reading that, I noticed that Dana Smith retweeted the thing about 130 Secret Service agents.
Amazing.
This is sort of like Jarod's first point. If it's a disagreement about how to take care of everybody, like, fine, we can wrestle all day. But if you actually don't care about people, well, that's a different thing, right? That's a different thing entirely. Like I don't really care what you think if you don't care about people, right? Anyway, we'll talk more about that later.
So, continuing on this theme, Dr. Ibram Kendi's latest piece in The Atlantic talks about America's souls. It's two souls. It's injustice and it's justice. And there were so many poignant pieces that I want to pull out from there. He says, humans lie about themselves like they lie about their nations. Humans and nations hide behind the cloak of ideals and intentions, but the outcome of what humans do and what nations do is never a lie. The outcome, what comes out of a nation's policies, practices, and ideology, is what a nation breeds. Nations, like institutions and individuals, are not inherently anything. They are what they do. What they do is what they breathe, and what they breathe is their soul. And it's about, again, this idea of, we purport this idea of all men created equal and all these wonderful things about justice, yet what actually is happening, right? What we do, not what we say we are, is the antithesis of that. And there's so much Du Boisian stuff in there. And, you know, I've talked about Du Bois on this show a ton, and it's a double consciousness. And so Dr. Kendi remixed the double consciousness for America, saying, America ever feels this two-ness, justice and injustice, two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one body politic, whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder. And that is ultimately what we're fighting as a nation, right? Whom we are in our essence, right? If you think about it from cartoon landscape, the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder, right? Like, this is who we are, and it's this constant battle we're trying to figure out. Hopefully the angel side wins out.
You are not getting this kind of content on ESPN, people.
You are.
All right, so I think, I don't remember until Judy puts it up. On Business Week had this cool little article about the 15-minute city, meaning everything's within 15 minutes of each other. And this is an idea for how they're building cities going forward. I actually live in a 15-minute city, although we can't just walk everywhere. It's a great idea, but until we solve the COVID problem, it's just that. And we can't really develop any ideas fully when people are dying and doctors and nurses are begging, please wear a mask. And then we've got this whole election contesting thing. Who knows what the bad guys are doing around the world? There are bad guys, and they live in America too, by the way. And they ain't just Muslims by any stretch of the imagination, as our FBI tells us all the time. Bad people exist all over the place in every religion, every color, every size, everything else. And while we're dealing with all this other bullshit, who knows what's really happening? Jean Valjean stole a loaf of bread for his starving sister's son, right? He couldn't think about what his future would be, whatever. He just had to live right now. And the reality is we all have to do that. And so this goes back to what I was saying before. Until we solve this enormous problem of our neighbors dying or having to go to hospital for a long time and maybe surviving, we can't really do anything else. We are stuck. Forget about lockdown the economy. It's locked down already because everyone's getting sick or afraid of getting sick. That's where our focus needs to be, one step at a time.
Shouts to Coach David Thorpe. Again, you're not getting this on ESPN. We mentioned the miserables on here. Shouts to Les Mis.
I read the book.
Hear me now. Oh, what's the song? I was going to break into song, but I suddenly... Amazing, though. Honestly. Okay. Brian Stelter wrote a book about Fox News. Again, this comes up in the thing we published today, but there's an amazing former Fox and Friends producer said that outsiders misunderstand the relationship between the White House and Fox News. They think the White House calls Fox News and tells them what to say, but the former producer says, people think he's calling up Fox or Friends like what to say. Hell no, it's the opposite. We tell him what to say, which is, of course, it's completely demonstrable in the Twitter results, right? Like right. Fox and Friends says a topic at 8:41 or whatever it is, and Donald Trump tweets about 8:43, right? My bigger point here, I think, is that Fox News is tremendously powerful, mostly because it has the ability to make its viewers lazy. Like, just do your homework, right? Like, Donald Trump can have any position he wants on any issue, but just sitting back on the couch, getting fatter, and receiving it is not very admirable in terms of the work he's putting in, right? And this is where like finding the truth means constantly being surprised, right? You're constantly just out there sifting through evidence and just trying to keep an open mind and find where you land and let the evidence go first, right? Fox News is the opposite of that. Fox News is just like, don't even worry about it. No homework to be done. We already know the conclusion. We'll find the argument later, right? It's just a lazy way to think.
So Henry, you're saying this is the opposite of when we were kids in math class. You had to show your work. Nah, don't show your work.
There will never be work.
So COVID cases rising rapidly all over the country. Look at that map. And I think we're at a spot now where the last 7 days we're up to 800 and something thousand cases over 7 days in this country. We're getting close to 1 million, right? And everyone talks about these opposite ends of the spectrum, right? You get it, you die, or you get it and you're fine. And of course, we know much more nuance in between. The NBA wants to start its season and have fans in attendance. Shams Charania has reported that the league sent protocols to teams about what we're going to do, requiring people 30 feet from the court, register negative coronavirus 2 days prior, have a negative test, or have a negative test the day of the game. The Golden State Warriors are saying, hey, we want to have 50% capacity in our stadium, and we're willing to spend $30 million in testing to make sure that happens. What does that all tell me? Well, it tells me, shouts to the #1 band of all time, the capitalist machine. Why would I spend $30 million unless there was something in it for me, right? So that $30 million that I'm going to pump in for these tests and make it sound like, hey, it's all good, Joe Lacob, we want to show what we can do. It's so that I get those gate receipts so I get that money. And, that's concerning to me. If we have cases rising and we know indoors is the #1 spreader of it, this sounds like a ticking time bomb. And I don't know.
I like it. Yeah, spend 30 million, make 100 million. So I saw a mural painted of the Spurs coach Becky Hammon, and it really kind of hit me. She's not a head coach yet, but the other day I was thinking about how happy I was that Biden and Kamala are hopefully now going to be president and vice president. And then I got really sad when it occurred to me that our country is never going to elect that woman or any woman. I firmly believe that until we change. There's not enough people who think the way I think the three of us and Judy and all of our friends probably think. So how do you fix that, right? One way to do it is to start allowing women to be in positions of leadership that we see. There's plenty of women CEOs. We don't know about them. So this artist who likes to paint, he's painting more women in a mural who are coaches, or I think maybe he's doing athletes too. We start hiring them as coaches, as we should, and they start ascending to head coaches, as should happen. And then the average dude who sees his team winning whatever, NFL, NBA, I don't care what sport it is, and a woman is in charge as the leader, and then you start getting GMs as leaders and maybe even some owners too, then I think we can start convincing the average person who just doesn't want to think deeply on a subject and doesn't realize in most cases the mom is in charge of the household. Why should this be any different? I know it wasn't my house. My dad was a lawyer. My mom ran the house. She ran our lives, as my wife does in our family and always will. We need to start thinking that way to change the course of America and start getting more women in positions of power.
On that topic, I'm wearing my Another Lane sweatshirt right now, and we're sworn to secrecy, but we've seen some early indications of how Another Lane is going to go. Mm-hmm. This is it's really not strictly a female-led business, but it's a Chad and Adina-led business, and we got a little glimpse of Adina doing some magic where there's some talent that wasn't recognized, and Adina recognized it, and it's beautiful. And like, it really is. And this is just a little microcosm of the point of this, right? Like, it's not that like, oh, we need to get some capital to Black-led businesses so that they feel good. No, it's like so they can save America, right? Like getting way more out of incredibly talented people who've been under-recognized, under-capitalized, under-celebrated, and like it's happening. It's happening. Like, honestly, Adina's like 6 minutes into having a little bit of money for another thing to spend stuff. Like, bing! like, it's gonna be fine, everybody. Don't you worry. Like I'm super fired up, and I'm just as this a kind of a random tease because she's a friend of the show. Like, what they're working on already is just phenomenal. Like, this is the reason to have hope, right?
Yes.
Well, here's the other thing, right? We do know that another lane and what Chad and Nadina are doing actually works and has a proof of concept, right? Like, we know that because there is a marketplace for it. Unlike other things that we've seen that get hundreds of millions of dollars that don't work. Shouts to Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, there are a few of those. So I had a little bit, I think a lot of our story, I'm a little fired about Fox News today because I've been marinating in the research all week. But this mask thing and this woman in power thing, it's all, to me, like, I think it's all Fox News. Like, I don't think that actually, if you put Americans in the MRI machine and scanned our molecules down, that we're like somehow just destined to hate each other. I think we're in a temporary phase of being trained that half of America is evil as a political strategy, right? Like I think this is a thing. Like, and I'm a little bit motivated by the stuff I learned at the Vladimir Putin conference, where like Vladimir Putin sent people to war, like on false pretenses. Like, and there was the guy speaking, Arkady Babchenko, volunteered for that war, went and helped to just level Chechnya, which is as much a part of Russia as Missouri is of the US, just leveled it. They killed every male from 10 to 60. And there were villages where only the chimneys were left standing. And then he learned that it was all a lie. Like, but it had been through the TV. They had like Fox News style programming, just basically saying like, these Chechens are the worst. And I think this is our mask conundrum. This is why we have our third wave of the epidemic, is exactly the same thing, right? Like, there are a whole bunch of people, 40% of America, just doesn't care what the evidence says anymore because they're being told what to say and they're being told not to care, right? It's not
Vietnam we might still be at war in Vietnam if our press had done that then. They showed the war and it probably had the opposite effect. Our government was lying to us about why we were fighting the war. Luckily, our media companies showed they tried to restrict a lot, but we still saw what was happening every day as a nation, and eventually got out of it. We're fortunate that.
And I just think it's not an impossible problem, but I think it's valuable to recognize what the problem is, right? The problem is most Americans don't believe in evidence. And the solution to that is just a little more work. It's just a little harder. Like, David, you had to actually have enough mind about LaMelo Ball and do your homework, right? And then we were like, oh, you know what? I think he's a very risky pick, right?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was going to think.
Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't. I really had no idea what I was going to find. When I saw him kept cleaning the bottom of his sneakers during a defensive possession, yeah, that was a problem for me. But to your point, I was texting with a lifelong friend, a lovely young lady whose husband I knew even longer than her, but I've known them both forever. And she literally wrote the words, Trump and Fox News has destroyed the relationship I have with my dad, who's like 82 years old. I actually forwarded her, Henry, your article yesterday before it was published, because I said, I thought of you. And her mom, it's bad, but it's really worse for her father. And it's tragic. At the end of his life, a girl that he's doted his whole life on, he all he does is scream at her to the point where they don't want to talk to each other. Yeah. And she's a normal person. And he's lost his mind. And over what Fox has done through Trump, it's a tragedy. And it's happening all over the country.
I remember there's a This American Life where the guy, or like one of the This American Life reporters is talking to her dad, who just hates Obama, which is the Obama years. And like, well, why do you hate him? What's the big deal? And it's like, well, no, his big reason is no president has ever golfed as much as Obama does. Like, he's never in the office. And she does the math. And it's like, not even true then, but now it's like, like, these aren't rules-based findings, sir.
I think my wife said he golfed 365 times. Trump did in 4 years. 365. Is that accurate?
Whatever it is.
So, probably more than that. You know what's so interesting about all of this in the chat? Bilal's like, I wonder when the mass media realize they can control people. We're talking about Trump. Henry, I don't know. Did you see Stick to Sports? They had a little hiatus in their back. Did you see Jamel's rant on Twitter?
I did a terrible thing, which is I retweeted it and didn't read it.
So if you're gonna play that, and I want we curse on TrueHoop, but just be mindful, explicit language.
Okay.
From Jamil?
Yeah. We've been on the receiving end of a lot of hatred, a lot of vitriol. I've been a professional journalist since 1997. I've been getting hate mail since I was in college. Nothing has been like what it's been like the last 4 years, particularly after I called out the president. This is what came into my Instagram DMs just this morning. Hey, you fucking racist nigger bitch. You got a problem with white folks, then run your fucked up bitch ass mouth to one of us, and I don't mean a little kid or an old man, and see if they don't slap the black off your sorry ass. Fuck you, Trump will still win. Get the fuck over it or fucking leave. Now, I realize that does not necessarily mean all Trump supporters are that hateful or that vitriolic, but this idea that we need to turn the other cheek, hell no. So I say this with all the disrespect. Fuck y'all. I'm not turning
Let's
the other
go.
cheek. I'm not forgiving you because you've terrorized my life. You've threatened it. You've come after my friends and my family. So fuck you.
Oh, she's my favorite person of all time. He just passed Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I know Jamil, but it's hard to beat RBG in my mind. But right now, she's number one.
I just, Henry, and you talked about, right, the sort of enraged behavior that like Fox incites among its acolytes, and ultimately, like, right, none of this is good for any of this, right? If we're trying to move to a place where, again, we want the justice side to win out over the injustice, none of this is going to work. And I just don't know, literally, honestly, where we go from here, right? Because I feel as though the coalition of Trumpies, they're just biding their time, waiting in the weeds, and like either planning their next big whatever, because as so many people realize, it isn't about Trump. It isn't about President Barack Obama, like, right? They are just manifestations of what has been going on this soil for hundreds of years, right? So like how do we, or where do we go from here is really where I'm at.
Well, to answer that simple question in terms of pragmatics, Judy, if you want to play the double woe that I have in the document, this is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who just did this, I think, this morning. You can cut it off whenever you want,
We are
Judy.
unique militaries. We do not take an oath to a king or a queen, a tyrant or a dictator. We do not take an oath to an individual. No, we do not take an oath to a country, a tribe, or a religion. We take an oath to the Constitution. And every soldier that is represented in this museum, every sailor, airman, Marine, Coast Guardsman, each of us will protect and defend that document regardless of personal price.
That's his way of saying what Jamil said. Hey, Trump, fuck you too. We're coming for you. Like,
So
we are.
Like, that taps into the idea of what that Atlantic piece of Dr. Kennedy is talking about, right? Like what a nation says it is versus what a nation actually is, right? Like we say these things about the Constitution and our ideals. What are we actually, right? And we see what we are actually. It's evidence in front of everything that we do, and it's just, whoo, man, we're in a precarious spot right now.
We'd be worse though if he didn't say what he just said.
Yeah,
the military supported the president. We're not a republic anymore.
So look, I'm not going to argue anything anyone just said, but we're in a less precarious spot in the real world, right? Like in the media world, we go and find the worst things we can find and put them all together in one place, right? In the media world, there are Proud Boys outside on every street, right? And Jamel found her worst text, right, and read it to us, right? And in the media world, we're completely screwed. We all actually leave our homes and go with masks on to various places like the grocery store or whatever. I don't know if people there agree with you. I don't know if they like you, but I know we can do this, right? Like we can buy the groceries, right? What else can we do? Can you go to a doctor? Maybe, right? And on and on. Like I think we have some kinds of, this tapestry of America has some threads in it. They just need to get a little stronger, right? Can you take your transactional one and make it into like, hey, I'm kind of friendly with you. You can take your friendly one and turn it into, hey, maybe we can like have a drink together, etc. Right? I think like if you take a deep breath and look at your real life, we're a little less screwed. I think most people aren't violent with each other most days, right? It's a very scary moment. There's a reason the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is making speeches like that, right? Yeah. But the fabric of the healing is starting to be seen a little bit, right? We did have an election.
For sure.
They did count the votes. We can do a lot better. And now I'm asking you to believe in long-term incremental progress, which is frustrating. It's not emotionally satisfying, but it's real. Right? I think we can we can build on something here, right?
Well,
But
and to just to finish that point, then, because then we got our interview coming. I completely agree with you, Henry. I've been coaching a long time, little league, like volunteer, local little leagues, whatever. And my county, which did go Biden, barely. I knew that I coached plenty of kids whose parents voted for Trump, and I know this also because they have let me know both via text and on Facebook, and every single one of them who see, if you're my Facebook friend, you know what I write on Facebook. Every one of them have said, Coach, I can't fight with you on this. I love you because I love their kids. I sunscreen their kids. I picked them up when they struck out. I made sure they got water. I inspired them to keep playing despite failure. And they, in their black hearts who voted for Trump, I don't get it. They appreciated that. And they can't get mad at me for all the things I said about Trump because I love their children. And so that is one of the ways we, in terms of the recipe for how we can build those threads that Henry's talking about, is be decent to people, regardless of who they voted for, as best as we possibly can. Be decent to them. And then it's on them. If they still want to be jerks to us, we're going to be jerks back. Like, I'm rarely a jerk in social media. I'm going to be decent.
So breaking news, our guest is having a very topical delay.
He is.
Yeah, so he probably won't. What does that mean? He probably won't be here, Jarod? What does that mean?
It means that he has to take a COVID test because, COVID. So he is tied up a little bit right now. So it looks like we're gonna record with him after Bring It In ends, and we'll have to release it later for all of you guys to see it.
Special edition. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Well, but it's good entry. Let's talk the draft. It's coming Wednesday. We only have one more show.
It is?
I get 2 shows on Wednesday.
It's going to be a tradey draft, right? It looked, or what? Let me ask you, do you believe that? Do you think they're really going to have some of these Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook things happening?
Well, here's what's so interesting, right? Like, everyone's saying it's a trade down draft, and I know what coach thinks James Wiseman is like the one guy, and then everything else is like meh. And I kind of see that too. I mean, there's intriguing people for sure, right? Obi Toppin's interesting. Okongwu from USC is interesting. Like, there are a lot of people who are interesting. Unfortunately, I don't know what interesting translates into when you're a GM, right? Like, when you have to make, I don't know what that means. Like, interesting doesn't necessarily mean you're going to help me win right now. Actually, probably there's no one who's going to help you win right now today in this draft. So, I think it's going to be trade down and can we collect? And I think we're going to see some movement around with these other pieces. We're getting a lot of smoke around, James Harden going to Philly, Chris Paul going to Phoenix, Russell Westbrook going to Charlotte. Like, there's a ton of that going on. But we also know around this time, GMs, agents, and our sources like to, I don't want to say lie, but they like to
lie. Yeah.
They like to tell us stories during this time of the year that we're like, is that true? So it's interesting. I'll say that.
I don't think it's rocket science to know that there's players that want to be traded or probably should be traded. I don't ever believe the reports. As someone who's been on the other side, not for the team, but knowing a player of mine, that I'm working with, we want to get traded. I mean, I always had I had a lie. If a guy called me and said, hey, what are you hearing? And I knew a trade about to go down, I couldn't tell this dude. I worked at ESPN for 10 years. So my guy was Mark Stein and Henry. Here's what I think is going to happen. You can't write it, but just know the other shit you're reading ain't the truth. But I know that if you write this, it's going to potentially fail. And if you look at the history of most trades, again, it's not hard to figure out who might get traded. We all knew Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul. That ain't news. But when you read about this stuff, I automatically almost always say, well, it ain't going to happen there. Because they wouldn't be talking about it if they thought they'd get the deal done. The deals are always shocking to us. Think about all these trades like, oh, my God. The player itself wasn't so surprising. The deal was. So, yeah, Henry told me this on the phone yesterday. I hadn't even thought about just how many trades there probably will be. Henry's the one who said it, and he's right. And it was also GMs have kind of an itchy finger. Like, hey,
it's been a long time.
They're bored. They're like, come on, let's do something.
But I will say this, and I've said this before. Man, I've said this to Henry. I don't know if I ever said this on air, but think of Jerry Seinfeld's show, Seinfeld. They tried it on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. I don't know if they ever tried Saturday. gigantic failure. But they thought they had something there, and they had bought the season, whatever. And they started with 4 shows, then they went to 13. Now, those are not big buys. Those are not first-round picks. First-round picks are a 3-year commitment, 25 shows a year, right? And then they put it on Thursday night after Cheers, and it's now the most highest revenue producing 30-minute show in history, right? And he's made a billionaire because of it. I look at the draft that way. Like there might be a James Weissman, might be a Kevin Durant. No matter where Durant went, that dude is going to score a bunch, right? LeBron. But there's probably mostly Seinfelds, like really talented guys that better find the right situation, or they'll just be okay and won't be around long. That's how I see this draft. That's why I think trading down is typically a good idea.
Well, it's also from the other end, from the player point of view, it's the reason we traded high, because the GM stakes his career.
Correct.
Like, if you're the 4th pick, like that GM might get fired if you're terrible, and it's in the data. I could. The book is here somewhere, but they did basically the higher you're drafted, the more they just play you when you're terrible.
You're getting way more royal jelly.
In year 3, you're still getting minutes if you were drafted high.
Mario Hezonja is still in the NBA. I don't know what else to say.
There's Danny Ferry was that player. Danny Ferry was drafted incredibly high and wasn't that good. But if they admitted he was a failure, then front office have been doing a lot of lying to the owner. Absolutely. Right? So they just play him forever.
Can we talk about that excellent analogy you used with Seinfeld and television buying? That's good. Well, and I want to go deeper on this, right? Think about Thursday on NBC. In the 80s and 90s, nobody had a better Thursday lineup than NBC. They had that thing locked from 80 to late 90s, almost 20 years. Now NBC is horrendous at figuring out programming. And so much of it, to your point, Coach, is about it worked on Thursday because you had Cheers as the lead-in, right? So many things have to go in the right place for it to work. Bring it back to the NBA draft, as we always say. Yeah, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, they'll be fine wherever they go because they're awesome. Everybody else, you got to go to the right spot because this ain't going to happen for you.
Well, on another TV. Oh, go ahead, Henry. Go ahead.
Well, just really fast. Anthony Davis in New Orleans is Seinfeld not being a hit.
Yep.
Right? Anthony Davis with LeBron.
Superstar hit.
Right?
Yeah. See, I've never seen the show CSI. I've not really watched an hour-long show that wasn't Game of Thrones since Hill Street Blues, which is way before any of your time. Randy ran into Hill Street Blues. Hey, you be safe out there. He'll know what that means. But CSI was turned down by every network. And I listened to the producer, Jerry Bruckenheimer. I told Henry part of this show yesterday on a podcast. And he said he was really actually very nice about it. He said it was turned down by NBC and ABC and whatever else they shopped to because they just didn't need another drama. They had their dramas. They were looking for something else. And he said it happens a lot in TV. And it's crazy to me. If you went back to NBC and ABC and said, going backwards, would you want to get CSI, which I think has become a gigantic franchise? I don't know. But apparently it's been on a long time and had many spinoffs. Who wouldn't say yes to ATM machines? It's an ATM machine, right? But at CBS, it worked because they needed a drama. This is where people always say you shouldn't draft on need. Well, if you ain't going to play, you probably should have, right? Because royal jelly is need, right? I need Kawhi. The Spurs need an athletic small forward on their great team. And all they shoot threes, Kawhi, if you dribble, we're taking you out. If you don't have to pass, look at his assist numbers. Just shoot the three and guard and be an athlete for us. By the way, he wasn't even a great athlete, but compared to that team, he was. They had a lot of non-athletic guys. And so they needed that. And so he played a bunch, and then they could take it with him and develop a much better player. I'm not at all suggesting you should only draft on need, but that's why I think that a team like Minnesota can take James Weissman is because they don't need a starting center. They just need talent. He's got that. You can let him fill Cat's minutes when he's resting, when he's in foul trouble, when he's hurt, or when you don't want to play him for load management. He can play 30-some minutes in all those situations, and you could try him on the court together once in a while. He's just 20 years old. Like, you're allowed to bring him along. But a team that only drafts on needs making a mistake, but a team that never drafts on needs making one too, because these guys aren't as good as your veterans, and so they won't play. That's why Darko was lost, right? There was no need at all for him. And that was a problem for him. There's got to be a marriage there.
Why do you think everyone's bailing on Houston now?
Because Tillman's a broke boy.
Do you think that's why, Jarod?
Here's what I think. I think that, and we talked about this in our chat, Coach. I think Daryl's an excellent GM, but what I feel like he often misses on is the people part of the business, right? Like, yes, the numbers work, but like parts have to fit from does this guy even like this dude, or is this going to be a problem, right? And I don't know what the culture is in Houston, or if there even is a culture in Houston. And James Harden and Russell Westbrook wanting to leave suggests to me, even if I love Daryl, if the culture was good, I'm going to stay. But maybe the culture is not great. And Tillman can say all he wants about we'll play the luxury tax, whatever. It doesn't seem like he is, right? He's super highly leveraged. He's not very liquid right now. They're not spending a ton on head coaching and GM because they hired Paul Silas, who they didn't pay a ton of money to, and they promoted somebody from within who I can't imagine is getting a humongous raise, right? So that's all signs to the players suggesting, yeah, this is not it. They can say, well, we got James Harden, I mean, we're halfway there to a title, but I don't see that. So I think the culture is not what it could be there. And with Daryl gone, who was the glue for James, I'm out.
That's what I think it is, because their culture is fine. It's not the best, but it's not the worst by any stretch of the imagination. I've had a lot of players play for the Rockets.
Why are we talking about the Knicks again? What the hell?
But it's definitely good. But I think you nailed it, Jarod. I think it's Daryl. I think that he was the glue. He was the genius. He has faults like we all do, but I think the players there knew as long as that dude is making decisions for us, we're going to be wily. Like we're going to be outside the box, whatever. And now that he's gone, it doesn't mean they can't do that. The confidence isn't there. But I also think it might just be Russell knows fucking Harden's going to leave. So I don't want to be the last one on the ship, right? He knows Harden may be gone. He also knows Daryl Morey really wants James Harden. Why wouldn't you? On any team, why wouldn't you want James Harden? So let's get out.
I think there's one other thing, which is so Daryl had I think he told Zach Lowe, I'm not sure where we know this from, but he basically had this philosophy that you have a 5% chance of winning a title, you should be all in, right? You trade your draft picks, you spend your cap money, all this stuff, right? Well, they did it. Like they did it the last few years, right? They've been all in for a while, and
they got close. They got close. They got so close.
Yeah, they got close. But now it's like, but they already mortgaged their future, right? Like the only way they were going to rebuild again now was with extraordinary costs, like the way that these super rich teams can rebuild, right? Where you just pay for everything, right? And luxury tax and the whole thing. So it's not just that Tillman's feeling a little tight with the old wallet. It's also that they're out of moves, right? Like they made all the moves, and they're not winning championship with this team. And so that means now, like they don't have all this great capital. They don't have the Thunder's trove of draft picks anymore, right? So, yeah. So I think it's just like they're not going to win. They're not going to win a title. Harden Rockets are not winning a title. Period.
But when you bring this up, you make me think of this. And I've known this guy a long time. He used to sell candy bars in the canteen at 5-Star. People are really raving about Lawrence Frank with the Clippers, whatever. But when Henry, you were just talking about what the Rockets did to go all in, the Clippers traded so much stuff and are still loaded with relatively young players, some of which are about to get paid. They would have been number one for a decade if they had just said, you know, Kawhi, thanks, no thanks.
Yeah.
We're just going to continue what we got going on and develop this young talent. Shai Gilgeous might be a big-time all-star in just another year. Landry Shea, all these guys, they would have been primed. They could have always used all of those assets and just grabbed a few, I don't like assets, players and picks, and maybe got one more guy to put him over the top. But their window is closing when it should have just been opening with a long way to go. And I think in a couple of years, we'll be doing this, Jarod, on a Friday, talking about, God, you remember that trade? Didn't produce anything, and it just wrecked them.
Well, you think about it, right? Like the margins to win in this league to get to the fight is so thin, right? Yeah. Once you're, it's just like, look, it's a crapshoot. Dude twists an ankle. All right, now you're screwed. Whatever.
Right.
I mean, look, the Rockets. I mean, we probably believe that, right? Chris Paul isn't going to hurt. Rockets probably beat the Kevin Durant-led Warriors, right? Like, oh. I mean, and now life is totally different. They maybe win one title, everything's rosy, then you're a genius, blah, 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 all these great things. And it's so funny how we judge stuff based on that one little tiny thing that, well, and as Henry always points out, only so many people can win titles. Like there's not right one team and one group gets to win it. Not everybody. So the majority of people who play in this league will never win an NBA title. Hell, you won't even get to a conference finals, much less an NBA finals. It's just what it is. I do have a GM, putting my GM hat on. What do you guys think about this three-way trade? So
Okay.
Harden to Philadelphia.
Harden, Philly. Okay.
Simmons to Golden State. The number 2 pick and Wiseman to Houston. Who says no? Everybody.
Big salary has to go to Houston, though, right?
Yes, that's why I sent what I send there. I send Wiggins.
Oh, you said okay, yeah.
The math may not work correctly, but those are the big pieces involved.
David, talk to me about Ben Simmons as a Warrior.
A lot of people are talking about this,
Yeah.
this exact deal, Jarod. I could see Simmons working for Golden State. You'd have to play him as a 5.
Yes.
Which should be fine.
A ball handling 5, though, which is like, whoa, they need a big who can protect the rim, score in the paint, and right, like.
Well, what they need with Simmons as a 4-5 would be a big that can protect Simmons can't protect the rim and make threes because you can't have 2 guys that can't shoot or won't shoot. I like the idea of Golden State going all in on their own ability to develop players. They've done a nice job with some guys over the years. And I don't think Philly has a monopoly on player development. And Brett Brown, he owns Ben Simmons, and he got fired for it. Like he wouldn't let anyone mess with the whole Markelle Fultz, Ben Simmons story. That was on Brett. I'm a player development guy. He said, I'm doing it. He failed, and for whatever reason. And the Warriors, it makes some sense to me to try it, but I just don't think it solves their rim protection problem. So now you've got Simmons at 3-4 with Draymond. Or Simmons at 4, Draymond at 5. Draymond's an amazing defensive player, but not at all the rim protector.
So are you saying, Coach, because...
But you could find that somewhere else.
So are you saying because you couldn't play Simmons exclusively at 5? Is that what you're saying? Because he's 6'10", he's tall enough to protect.
No, you can play him exclusively at 5 if you have a guy at the 4 that can protect the rim.
Okay. You don't think Simmons can't, you don't think his skill set, he can protect the rim?
Definitely not. No.
Okay.
Amazing defender, elite defender on the ball, good helper, but he's not a rim protector. Draymond can protect the rim in terms of space, but he's not playing above the rim. And so you're not going to be shy about going in there. But there are guys you can find, lots of them. Like Kem Birch is a good player. No one probably knows who that is. He plays for Orlando, but he keeps, he's behind Bamba. He beat Mo Bamba out, but Bamba was a high draft pick. You can find Kem Birches out there. I don't know how much you can play him. Now Simmons is 4 next to that guy. That's tough because those guys aren't shooters.
But neither is Draymond, right? Like, and
right, that's why
really
you can't
Kevon
do it.
Looney, right? It's like now suddenly you're not the Warriors anymore.
Right, like you can't do it.
That'd be great, but it's totally different thing.
Yeah, Simmons almost a Draymond replacement.
How would, I'm sure great. How would the Harden Embiid combo?
Wait, what can you get for Draymond then? Sorry.
Yeah, it's tough, not easy. But that would be the idea, is that we have to trade Draymond and let Ben be the Draymond, which by the way, that's an upgrade.
And Draymond's got 4 years, about $100 million.
Right.
That's
tough
the
problem. Is I don't know if you can move him so easily. There's always a dumb team that'll take a guy, almost always anyway.
The Knicks. Sorry, Randy.
What'd you just ask about?
Harden and Embiid. How does that look in Philly?
Fine. Yeah. Embiid's got to be willing to be a rim runner off pick and roll and not just want to be a popper and post up. Those guys are geniuses. You could play them together for sure. But the problem is what do you do with Ben and Draymond and no rim protecting at 5? For
Wiggins and the 2 pick in Houston, that's your rebuild, right?
It's a start. Yeah. They don't have much. They don't have much young talent in Houston, right? So it's starting off with somewhere. Randy's tired of the Knicks trashing.
They just clean up the one little time, just maybe twice. James Harden is an elite basketball player, but will not be forever. Like, right. At what point he's a terrible teammate. All of his co-stars hate playing with him. They don't win championships. He has had the most egregious fades in playoff history. Like he has disappeared for the crucial halves of many games. And now he's officially getting old. Like, at what point do we stop paying an infinite price for James Harden? He can't be the skeleton key forever, right? Like, he's wonderful, but come on, Ben Simmons is 150 years younger, and that matters.
Yeah. If I wouldn't do the deal. Daryl's got to be thinking about something, and it might just be an owner saying, "We need you to try to make the finals right now," or get a team excited. I don't know. If I was trading Ben or Embiid, I would trade Embiid, but mostly for a health purpose. I also don't know enough. Is Ben Simmons really willing to work on his three with a different coach? It'll be interesting to see, those kind of dimensions happen. But the Chris Paul story to me is more interesting.
Yeah.
Because part of me I want him to stay in OKC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were really good this year. They lost in 7 games. In a pandemic, to obviously Houston's good too. I'd like to see him stay there and see if they can't, get to the Final Four, even just the Western Final Four, as guys like Shai Gilgeous improve. They've got a couple of talented young players, not just Dortz, right? They have a couple.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he will.
I think I agree with you, Coach, in the sense that everyone's wondering, does Chris need to win a ring? Does Chris need to win a ring? I'm sure he would like to, right? As many NBA players would, but I don't think that impacts his all-time status and where he's going to be, right? I still think, like, when it's all said and done, we'll look back and be like, no, he was like, the best, like, traditional point guard of his generation, right? Like, we'll say that. Like, I
agree with you. I agree with you.
Impact his Hall of Fame candidacy, none of that stuff, because he's already, like, again, one of the winningest. Yes, he didn't win the big shiny thing, but in terms of just straight come to my team and win, he is among the best ever in the NBA.
Look at Barkley. I'm sorry, Kenny Smith doesn't have more credibility as a player than Barkley just because he won.
Right.
Barkley was one of the best players of his era. Chris Paul, there's no argument. He flat out is. So I agree. That's why I'd like to see him just say, I'm staying right here. And I don't think he's going to. I think that's why Billy left. The Bulls might be an interesting.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of talk about they're going to do. I don't love their situation at all. The question will be, I think, which contender does the best deal to suddenly jump to a little bit higher of a ranking?
Well, how about Denver, right?
Yeah, right.
Because now, since Michael Porter Jr. has shown enough that enough other GMs are like, ooh, that dude's tantalizing.
Right, I might trade him.
Can you move him now to get whomever to make you now? Oh, this is my 3 with Jokic, Murray, and whoever.
Yeah. I think we're going to see. When can they trade? Can they trade the week of?
I think. That's I said the 20th. Henry doesn't trading straight.
Draft's the 18th.
You have to be able to trade on draft day.
Yeah, so it's got to be Monday, or it can't just be that day.
I thought I read that it was draft day. But maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe so. Maybe it's the Wednesday, or maybe it's Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, stuff's going to happen. I think stuff's going to happen. I hadn't thought about it, but I think Henry's right. And then we'll talk about free agency later. But
Henry, what are your Blazers going to do?
Everything I'm saying looks stupid.
That's funny.
I've seen remembered so far.
Do you think the Lakers and Spurs deal is real?
What is it?
The DeRozan for Danny Green?
Oh, for Kuzma and Green.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's reporting it, so based on what you said, that tells me no.
Gerard, I owe you a big hug. That's exactly if you're reading about it, it's almost for sure not the truth. Yeah. And why would you do that anyway?
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
I mean, for the Lakers, I mean, for the Spurs, even, why would you do it? It's not like Kuzma. We don't know what Kuzma's going to be, but if someone wants DeRozan, you want a higher upside potentially than Kuzma. I actually like Kuzma. I did think he played good defense. I was proud of his defense in the playoffs.
He competed for sure.
He did.
100%.
Yeah, I give the Lake. Yeah, good. There's my word of the week. Competed.
He has a lousy assignment. Like,
yeah, I agree.
I think I talked about this or wrote about this, but like, I watched him for a good long chunk of the time where he literally didn't touch the ball. He would go like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and he'd get a quick catch in the corner and shoot it or not. But meanwhile, he played D the whole time. Who knows what he could do if he played
it's true.
like a team.
He's in a contract year now, right?
I think so. Yep.
And he ain't gonna do that much this year either, so you can get him cheap as a free agent.
And then of course we got the Drew Holiday thing, right? Like that's the other big piece.
So I mean the one when they were saying Drew Holiday on the Celtics, I was like, wow, you can picture that, can't you? Like,
so him next to Kemba, so that's your defensive star on the other side. And when you want to go all D, you put Marcus Smart there too.
No, they'll have to trade Smart.
I think Kemba has to go.
Oh, really?
Well, the trade that I saw proposed was Kemba and stuff for Drew. But you know what? Drew's the kind of player they like in Boston. You know what I mean? Like,
but why would the Pelicans? Does Kemba have more years? He does.
He does.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah.
And you get a pick out of the deal.
And you listen. I've said this for so long now. You can't be stuck with a guy who is in his last year and isn't going to stay for sure if you want him to stay. In my opinion, you always have to trade those guys. Yeah. Always. You can never allow to happen what we've seen happen so many times now. So yeah, if you're David Griffin, you don't think you're going to be able to keep Drew, which is fine. He has every right to want to go somewhere else. You got to trade for someone that you're going to have. Kemba's good.
David, I want to tell you, actually, Jarod, you inspired this by mentioning his name earlier, but David's so in my head now as a sort of assessing what matters in the league right now, and he's been very big. His level of enthusiasm, people, is uncommon with this, like these centers of point guard skills, right? This is the Nurkic, the Anthony Davis, the Bam Adebayo.
Oh yeah,
David's new favorite kind of player, right? And you have this is the cool new thing. Well, I don't know jack about scouting college players, but I did watch about 9 minutes of YouTube on Obi Toppin.
Yeah.
And so Obi's a big dude.
Yeah.
Pretty athletic. He shoots threes. And then they were like, well, what have you been working on in your draft prep? And he's like, I've been watching Anthony Davis. Oh. He's like, and I'm realizing that I could put the ball on the floor. And I think that's a natural part of my game that I haven't really used. Like, and I don't know if they didn't really show that he can do that. He didn't have that job in college, but I was like, what I did next was I texted David. I'm like, let's talk about Obi Toppin.
So I'm going to do more. I figured Monday and Wednesday we'll talk more about the draftable players. But when I first saw him, and don't hold me to this, my thought initially was, ooh, I see some Montrezl Harrell in this guy, mm-hmm. which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a competitive motherfucker. Mm-hmm. And Montrez, I like, well, Henry said this the other day about, I always say we should measure to someone's shoulders and then their wingspan. I don't care how long their neck and head are. Mm-hmm. Montrez is undersized and is an all-star. Mm-hmm. Like he's a human tornado on the court, and he's got skills too. Like he drives right by dudes and spins on them, whatever. Who cares how tall he is? Toppin looks like he's not small. I think he's 6'9".
Yeah. I
think Toppin's 6'9". Yeah, he's very good. I'll break him down more when we do our Monday show and Wednesday show. But yeah, as long as you can defend the three,
yeah,
out on the floor, and you can play it out there, and you have size. It's just we were talking about this 7-footer we saw yesterday before Henry, you weren't on yet. There was a big high school games last night, and the number one player in the class of 2021 is a Porzingis looking 7-footer from Minnesota. And that dude puts it on. I mean, he goes through his legs and behind his back, but that doesn't impress me as much as his ability to change speeds, direction, and finish like scoops and things with his left hand, his right hand. It's impressive. He's just very, very, very thin. Yeah. But it does allow your offense to do so much more. Oh, and he's a human shot blocker. Mm. Yeah, he has a feel for it. It's not just tall guys. He has a feel for it.
What's his name?
I forget. Holmgren. Yeah,
Holmgren.
Yeah, he's good. Where's he supposed to go to college, Jarod?
I don't know.
Anywhere he wants, I know.
Yeah, him and Bates were like the guys last night in this game that people are raving about. The next unicorns. Everyone uses that freaking word.
Have you seen Bates?
There can't be a lot of unicorns. That's the whole point of unicorn.
That's the whole point of a unicorn.
We've got a universe of unicorns now. What a great place to live. Puppy dogs, ice cream, and unicorns. Have you seen Bates, Henry, Emoni Bates?
No, nope.
So think of just a 16-year-old junior in high school version of Kevin Durant.
That's pretty good.
You're like, oh,
with better ball skills at that age. But I'll tell you this, Durant always has been exceptionally quick for a 7-footer. Forget about just speed. Quickness in small, tight spaces is so hard. Durant's always had that. He just the ball couldn't keep up with his quickness when he was younger, and now it can. That's why he's Kevin Durant. When Jarod said last week or 2 weeks ago, he might be the best player in the world, like, he ain't wrong. He very well could be. I completely agree, Jarod. Bates isn't as quick as Durant, I don't think. And I think that he's super skilled, and we get mesmerized by that. Like Lamar Odom had all those kind of things. Of course, he was a different player than Bates, but none of those guys were as quick as Durant and Pippen. Think of those tall guys that are so quick in tight spaces. Bates, but he's 16 years old. But he's clearly, those guys are talented guys.
This is why I love talking to Coach like, as much as we do, because you, Coach, like you hit that on the head. Like that's what I think a casual basketball fan can't see. To your point, oh, he shoots threes, so the skill is all there. But to be like that impactful at the NBA level, that quickness in tight spaces, if you don't have it, it's like, well, you know.
I love that sound. It's just harder. It's your, think about it. The game's about playing 4-on-3. Really, think about it in the half-court game. I've got to be good enough where I get by my guy, and the best players always know they're going to beat the guy in front of them, almost always, without a screen. It's a given, okay? If you can't do that automatically, you're just not going to be one of the best guys that way. So that means help's coming, and now we're playing 4-on-3, right? So Durant always is going to be doing that. The difference is with Durant also is he can shoot over you, no problem. So Bates probably will be able to as well at 6'9" guard. But I just don't think he's going to be able to blow by people as easily as Durant has been able to do, absent some real progress as an athlete. And that's why LaMelo can't. I told Henry yesterday, he had trouble in the NBL beating dudes that look like me and Henry. He did. Just like heavy, kind of like mildly heavy set. Like, I didn't even look like pro athletes sometimes. I'm sure they were in the NBL. It's a good league for sure. It's a better league than the ACC. Okay, that tells you something because they're grown men. He couldn't cook them. He needed a screen. It's all right. You're allowed to need screens, but it's not the same as some of these other guys. Harden doesn't need a screen. D Rose didn't need a screen. John Wall, Russell Westbrook, the list goes on. I think LaMelo needs a screen to beat those kinds of perimeter defenders. He ain't going by our best defenders without a lot of help. And Durant just has a problem with it,
Physiology wise, like when we're coaching, we always talk about the muscle fibers, right? Fast twitch, slow twitch, and your convertible fibers, right? And when you're coaching swimming and doing things, there's different things you can do to like work on those convertibles and make you a little bit more fast twitch. What are the things you do in basketball to help make a guy a little more fast twitchy, if you can? So you're like, all right, we got to work on this quickness level. Here's how we get better at this.
Well, there's two things. First of all, we do it mentally because anticipation is the first step towards being someone. And then you get craft to help them. I'm going left, but I'm really going right. I got to convince you going left, but I'm going right. But then for the muscles itself, you got to practice doing it. So like you want to get better jumping, practice jumping. You want to get better moving quick. First of all, make sure they're on the balls, their feet, and on their heels. Make sure they're balanced, all of that. And then constantly have them practice moving with quickness, right? And then show them on tape. Well, you're not giving it the effort. So, and then you'll see them make progress with it. You have to practice doing it, just like developing your left hand or anything else.
You probably could write this book, but at one point they just talked about plyometrics, and it came from Russia in the 70s. But basically, they were like, it's neurological how long your feet are on the floor from when you run into the jump, put your foot on the floor, and explode. Like, and the shorter that time is, the more you can transfer power from the run to the jump. Right. Or jumping up a box or whatever, and like that's you can it's a neurological function that is trainable.
He's froze up.
Henry's underwater.
So we can go 0.07 to 0.04 or whatever.
Well, and you wrote, Henry, on your thing on Kyle Lowry a couple of weeks ago. That in the brain, when you beat people with quickness, it makes a difference too. We have a question about Killian Hayes. I actually know Killian's dad. I've been dealing with Killian for a couple of years now, not him directly. Tune in Monday, and Monday and Wednesday we'll start talking more about because I'll study players all weekend because I know about 5 right now.
Okay. That's what we call a tease, folks.
Yeah. We'll do a good draft breakdown, Jarod. Let's really focus on some of these players Monday and Wednesday.
Sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. Everybody have a good weekend.